I'm gonna turn on the server. Logs are the end and graph. Okay, and then okay. So there is okay. So this. All right. Yeah. So all right. Yeah. So the whole idea is I'm trying to show messages on any page based on conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So right now the conditions are pretty simple. For example, it's based on geolocation, and geolocation is only currently based on the country, or based on storefront page. By storefront page, it's like website page, any page. Is it home page, collections page? We have different types, and or based on if the customer is logged in or not, right? So, for example, if you wanna, I don't know, if you wanna promote account creation for a 20% discount or something, so this is kind of the use case of this, if the customer is logged in or not. So we check if there is a customer logged in or not, and if not, then show this message, basically create an account and get 20% off with this code or something. Yeah, so those are the conditions that what I'm doing right now is, yeah, and based on those conditions, just so you know, so for example, here I'm on the homepage, and I am in Canada, so I'm showing this message. If you, I assume you're in the States, if you go to this URL, you won't see anything on the homepage. Okay. If you see anything, that means something is broken. If you go to a collection page, then there is a different message in here, and the only condition for this message is the page type, right? If you go, if we go in here, so test, and we edit, let's say collection page promo. Yeah, and you are here. The only condition is it's a storefront page, and it should be a collection page, right? If I save, yeah. So yeah, so currently those are the conditions. In future, I'm planning to add kind of more conditions. For now, the front end is responsible on showing which message on which page, and the API is currently sending everything to the storefront, and yeah, the storefront is deciding which message to show.
Right.
I feel more comfortable taking care of this logic on the backend side of things. I think last time we discussed performance and whatnot, and yeah, I think you mentioned that it depends. It's
I mean, performance wise, you never know until you measure, but you know, if you're more comfortable doing the logic on the back end, then that's a good enough reason.
Yes, I think, yeah, I'm in this kind of this is where I am at the moment. I prefer to kind of handle the heavy lifting on the backend side.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just close everything, and yeah, let's take it from the top. So I have the storefront. This is loading the widget. yeah, and so I have storefront widget, and then I have, this is where everything is happening. Yeah, there's lots of, as you can see, console logs, just to, so I'm sure I'm moving to the right direction. All right, so conditions start here. I mean, each message checks for all the conditions to make sure if it matches this condition or not, and based on yeah, and then if it matches, what I do is I create for each message, I create an array of Boolean values for each of the, right now it's and condition for everything. So everything needs to be true to be able to display the message, like the customer logged in or storefront page or geolocation, all of them needs to be true to be able to display the message if they exist, right? Yeah, so yeah, so right now this is what I'm doing. I'm checking for, yeah, if the condition type is this, do this. If it's this, do that. If it's that, do this. Yeah, and yeah, and those are the conditions. And maybe I'll do this. Yeah, and where is it? Yeah, so I am looping or mapping through the shop messages here, and then loading another component, which is this, and this component is taking care of the logic based on all the things I'm kind of sending to that component, right? So I think in this setup we are kind of discussing is the front end just needs to send couple of information or few information about where is it and what does it know.
Yeah.
And then the API should get that request, and then based on that request send the right message, basically. So the endpoint is it this? No. Store front message. No. Okay. Old school. I have to go find it myself. Yeah, it's this. All right. So yeah, so right now I think this is, I'm doing a handshake. So, and basically the handshake is returning all messages. Yeah, so this is the endpoint that is sending all the messages to the widget, the storefront widget, or the yeah. So how do you want to do this? I assume you want to write a test.
Well, for a loose definition of write a test, yes.
So yeah, sorry about
Go ahead.
No, well, the bad news is I have no tests.
Okay.
But I think I already have, as far as I know, many tests already installed. I think, yeah, it comes installed with shop with Rails out of the box,
Yeah.
so it should be there. And and yeah, and Rails, yeah. So Rails kind of generates kind of dummy or placeholder tests to yeah, for
Yeah.
things. So
Well,
so this,
um,
yeah,
so and when I say so, for a loose definition of start a test means to me means I want to have something that we can repeat and repeatedly do and see a change.
yeah,
That doesn't necessarily mean we need to write a formal test yet. I think
yeah,
it would be nice to get there.
yeah,
But we don't necessarily have to get there immediately. So here's my thought, and tell me what you think of this.
sure,
You want to arrive at a request where you send some information about the current page or the current request. Yeah, current page, I guess. And you get back what, a list of messages to display, or just a message to display, one or zero messages to display.
all right. So so in theory, yes, a list of messages, but in practice, it's only going to be one message.
Okay.
And this is something I wanted to discuss down the road if we have enough time, but
Hmm.
it's a conditions collision kind of thing. For example, uh, each page must or should show only one message.
Hmm.
So if a user created two different messages and
Hmm.
added the same page or the same page type to this message, uh, I would like the user to know, hey, there is a collision here.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
One of those messages will be kind of ignored or discarded or
Right.
something like this, you know.
Right.
But this is, yeah, this is,
I have a piece of software that does something similar to this in WordPress, or I use a piece of software that does something similar to this, and
yeah,
the way it handles it, for what it's worth,
yeah,
um, it has it has a sense of precedence, like ordering precedence,
yeah.
and so you actually have a reorderable list of these messages. Like each message has conditions associated with it, but then they're all in an ordered list that you can move them around in, and you can, and it, you know that it's going to display whichever message matches the conditions and is on top, is the highest one, the highest ordered one that matches the conditions, um,
Um,
and
it's
which,
gonna get returned first.
right, which is kind of handy, honestly. Like I don't know if this would apply to what you're doing, but it's kind of handy for me because sometimes I have like a generic like call to action that I want to, like, if nothing else matches, I want that to appear on all pages. Um, but then I want the more specific ones to take precedence over it. And so I just sort the more specific ones, the ones that are like for a particular page category or something like that. I make sure that they're higher in the list, um, like visually, like they come first, um, in the list, above the more generic ones. And so the logic just like goes down the list and says, does this one match? Nope. Does this one match? Nope. Does this one match? Ah, this one matches. Okay, stop here. Um,
Yeah.
and that way I can have fallbacks. So can have specific stuff for like specific categories, and then if those don't match, more generic ones.
Uh, that's great. I mean, it's. I think that will do the trick. Um,
But you want to let people know that a message isn't being displayed.
well,
Sounds like.
right now is well, correct. If yes, if they created another message with conflicting conditions, like
Mm-hmm.
for then I want the user to know that, hey, this message might not show or because of this or
Mm-hmm.
even without a reason, but
Yeah.
with a reason. Um uh, so this is yeah, to answer your question. The other one is based on the idea you mentioned is I don't necessarily have a fallback message, but
Mhm.
it seems like this might be a good idea to have a fallback message. But as of
I mean, it's
now,
not like it's not explicitly a fallback. It's just like it's effectively a fallback because the it just goes down the list until it finds the first matching one. And as long as you organize your list so
yeah,
that the more specific
so
ones are higher, then it just kind of works.
100%. So in this case, what would be relevant? I think this is a good. I think yeah, I think I might have already a use case for it. So yeah, so for example, I'll show you. So at the moment, the app is I don't have a mechanism to limit the number of messages.
Hmm.
I'm not sure why this isn't loading. Let's see. Settings. Okay. But so right now is I can show a global message. Like for example, if I choose storefront everywhere, and if I do hello world, oops, and then this should, in theory, should be displayed everywhere. Um, uh, so in an ideal scenario, I don't want this to be collisioned with the other one. So now the Hello Canada or Canada, the Canadian message is actually underneath this.
Mm.
And so so what I would like to happen is I would like the Canadian message to take precedent.
Hmm.
And if it doesn't exist, then yes, I like what you mentioned. If there's no conditions, then basically the generic message will be like the fallback. So
Hmm.
I think this is a great idea. And yeah, how can we?
So okay, so I do understand you only want to display 0 or 1 messages. That's what I'm getting. Um, I still think it's like I usually lean towards interfaces, APIs that return a list, even if you just like even if your JavaScript only ever uses the first thing in the list and throws away anything else.
Yeah.
I kind of lean towards exposing a list-based API. They're just more flexible. Um, but we could go either way with that. It sounds like we could also get away with just having an API that's based on returning 1. Um, what the way I would go about this, I agree. We probably want to have a test, a formal test at some point, but I would usually start. So I mean, we want an API that the JavaScript hits to get back whatever message to show, if any, right? Um,
Correct.
so I would usually just like open a terminal and like my test, so to speak, would be I would curl the URL that I want to, I'd curl the path
Yeah.
that I want to expose that information on. And it'll say 404, and that's my test. That's my failing test.
Okay. Uh,
Um,
uh, yeah. So I'm not a terminal person, so I can use Postman.
Perfect. Yep. Postman's fine. I like Postman too.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just open it. Um, and yeah, then whether we can use the same endpoint or we can use something else, we can uh, create a different
I
endpoint.
would lean towards creating a new endpoint.
Yeah. So
Because that way we can do this in parallel.
awesome.
Do this in a kind of graceful way where you can keep it in trunk and not have an incompatible branch.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. All right. All right. So, okay, in this case, let me see. What is the route of, okay, so storefront, goes to handshake. Okay, so, and we need to get the ngrok URL. This. All right, so basically this API v1 and storefronts, then maybe fetch or something. Or for the sake of being explicit. Yeah. Okay, and if we save, and we need to restart this. Okay, yeah, then I think that should do the trick. Okay, let's see what happened here. Preview. Okay, why not? Did I?
Take a look at, oh.
Okay, bad gateway, storefronts, fetch messages. Okay. Is it, was not, I'll try again. Okay, yeah, so I think this is good enough of a fail test.
Yep. All right. So it is time to implement it.
All right. Let's do here.
I kind of like, I do kind of like naming my endpoints a little bit more. How do you feel about this? Like, I like to name them less verby and a little bit more just like the thing that I'm getting.
Sure. So do you want
just like I feel like if I were doing this, I'd probably call it something like applicable messages or something, just to like make it clear that it's going to do some, like, the name. I would want the name to suggest that it's going to do some filtering. It's not just going to like give me all the messages. It's going to
applicable messages. Yeah, I
mean, that's kind of long. It's just the first thing that popped into my head.
Would matched messages work, or that's
sure? Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I like a name that you know suggests some of the semantics here.
Yeah, let's no, I always spell check my things. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I think with Rails, because it's route change, I need to, okay.
Yeah, you'll need to add a route for that.
Yeah, I just changed the one that I created. So yeah, this should be good. So now if I change this to matched, and I should get the same. Yeah, good. Yeah, so.
Wait, so why is it saying it can't find the action? Oh, do we need to expose that? I think we need to expose that in the controller, like explicitly say that it's,
So set shop.
let's see, I have to look that up.
Is it?
I feel like if you have a non-standard action name, you may need to explicitly say, hey, this is available as an action. I'm not positive.
I
I could be wrong.
Storefront match messages.
Two.
I think it. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but in theory it should work. Yeah, because the other one. So the other one is the handshake.
Oh, and that one's working.
Correct. So.
Okay. Yep. Ignore me.
Thing is, I have no, but this is not the error. Yeah. So in this controller, it is there is an expectation of we are there's the request I'm getting from the storefront. It needs to be verified, and based on that, I set the shop. But anyways, this is not the error message we are getting. I'll try to just add a.
Just render something.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. This. Make sure. So what is happening here? I think could not be found. Oh, yeah, we changed that. Let's try again. Matched messages. Let's try to send. Okay. All right. So unless okay. So I think it's yeah, it's because of this the before action. So what I'm gonna do for now is just to I'm gonna comment it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll worry about it later. Okay. So
okay. So that's
yeah.
new,
So as you can see, there is some dependencies that are not being fulfilled. Or yeah, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but there are some steps that yeah. So
do you want to disable that step in both test and dev? Rather than commenting it out.
Yeah, I can do that for now. Yes. And yeah, and all right. Okay, so yeah.
All right, cool.
It's all good. But the thing is now, because we are not setting a shop.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. So okay, what do we need to do to set the shop?
Good question. So yeah, so shop is yeah. So
yeah, I meant just for the one, like the digital signature before action. Set shop seems important.
Yeah. So setting a shop is because this is the app is basically dependent on Shopify.
Sure.
And so when there is a request coming from the storefront, there is a param which is shop, okay. But basically this can be because I already know which shop is it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can basically not hack it, but yeah, hard coded, right? Hard code it. And that should do the trick for us. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So shop.first. Yeah. So so this. Well, yeah. All right. So what I'm gonna do here is just for the sake of this thing. So I'm gonna. I think it's if I set set shop here, it's gonna take precedent over the one in the application controller, right? I think no. Let me try. So it's yeah, that's okay. Yeah, let's try this. Or maybe just to make sure everything is working. Oh, good. It's not gonna work. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so yeah, we are in business. Yeah, so now we have access to that shop, to all its messages, and yeah, we can. We are in a good spot to kind of move forward.
Yeah, excellent. So what is the storage for, or what do the models look like for the messages now?
Yeah, so so each shop, let's for the sake of explicitity. So each shop has storefront messages. Storefront messages, right? And for this, I have two already created. Each storefront message has some other stuff like style and like other stuff like yeah. So each message has the message itself, like the title, the subtitle, or any other things, and it has the message has also styles. But I think that's irrelevant. But is it message display? So yeah, sorry. So the message has display conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are important conditions. Yeah, let me also print this. So this message, the first message only has one condition, which is storefront page. And yeah, the storefront message ID, description. Okay, yeah, here's that's what I was looking for. The condition attribute, which is basically homepage one. It means only show on the homepage. Yeah, so yeah, and the message has style, but I think in our case it's irrelevant. The style is irrelevant. So yeah, Yeah, the shop has storefront messages. Storefront message has display conditions, and based on those conditions, we display the message on basically on the website or not.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Let's see. Are you ever going to share? No, you're not going to share conditions between messages, right?
No. So in an ideal scenario, each message is encapsulated. So, but and I would like them to like what I was trying to do in the future is to be able to detect if there is a conditions collision, as I mentioned.
Right.
But yeah, for the sake of simplicity for now, is each message is encapsulated, and it has nothing to do with any other message.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so you've already got a display conditions model. Yeah, right now I'm thinking through. I know we talked about like we talked about polymorphic associations, and we talked about inheritance, single table inheritance. What variety? Let's see. You said there are about what, 3 different varieties of condition right now?
Right now, yes, there are currently 3. There are a 4th in the works, but yeah, as of now, there is only 3. Yes.
All right, so you do add them sometimes, and a display condition has whether it's active, and then you've got attributes, which I assume that's BSON, right?
Correct. So so the condition attributes they change based on the message itself.
Sure.
Or no, sorry, based on the condition, not the message. Mm-hmm. So for example, if we try the here dot last and then this message to, right? No. Is it the same? How come? No. So this is okay. So this is it shows everywhere, but this isn't the message I wanted to show. So store front message dot find 2. Okay, maybe for okay, so it's gonna be 5.3. Okay, so message X equals this. All right, so the conditions for this, as you can see, it's a bit, the condition attributes are a bit different. So this message has 2 conditions. One is the geolocation. So the country is Canada. The other one is the page. So it's the home page. So yeah. So just to give you an idea of what to expect when you work with display conditions.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
The actual part that changes for different types of condition. So the part that varies for each type of condition is all in condition attributes, right?
Correct.
Display condition, geolocation. Okay, so that's a separate type, display condition, geolocation. Are these, is this single table inheritance now?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a table called display conditions, and
Yeah.
yeah, just to give you an idea. All right. So yeah, so here are the display conditions. So customer logged in, geolocation, storefront, and time box. This is it's not implemented yet, but yeah. And here's the display condition model. So yeah, there is yeah. And so far, there's nothing much going on in terms of there's no much differences between them. It's just the attribute, which is I try to kind of to set it based on filtering the things that are coming from the when I create the message through the form. So I try to filter the attributes that irrelevant to this condition. It is not the cleanest way. Things might change because I'm kind of instead of Rails views, the plan is to use React components to do this. So in the future, it should be cleaner in terms of what is going to be sent to create those conditions.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I think we can get away without using either single table inherit. I think we can get away from using single table inheritance, and I don't think that we need to use polymorphic associations either.
Okay, so make things simple.
Yeah, for this case, there's a feature in relatively recent Rails called polymorphic attributes.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a Ruby Tapas account?
I do, yes.
Okay, let me send you a URL.
Okay.
So this is part 2 of the URL is for part 2 of a series that Corey Haynes did on polymorphic attributes. And like for the Cliffs notes, you can scroll to the bottom and there's like there's a screenshot of the full code.
Yeah.
Not sure why we don't have a actual code listing for that.
Let me sure. Am I logged in? I am. I don't think I'm logged in. Yeah. 1 second.
For some reason, yeah. Is it asking for Google Authenticator? That's weird. See if you can log in without it.
Yeah, I'll try. I don't think I have it set up. So.
Well, yeah, this is something new. Something's broken. Can you go to?
Yeah, I'm able to log in.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah, let me try that one more time.
Something's broken. As usual, something's broken. All right, so if you scroll to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the end.
There's a screenshot up a little bit.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So that's like the Cliffs Notes version. Basically, if you can use JSON or BSON columns, and you can say, if you look at the bottom of that line 28, you see attribute final exam, and then it's final exam type dot new, and a default of final exam type dot empty. So what that says is there's an attribute called final exam, and you should use an instance of final exam type to interpret it, and to load it and to save it. And then you've got this final exam type, and what that does is it's got cast and serialize. And the cast takes a hash or JSON, and at first it looks in it for a type, and then it instantiates different types of object in Ruby based on that type attribute and the rest of the values. So basically, it's doing polymorphism on a column, totally in Ruby.
Okay. And is the final exam type, is it an actual class, or
the final exam type is just used, it's used as a type. It's used as basically a serializer and deserializer. Rails uses it like if you try to save something to that attribute, Rails uses the serialize method on final exam type, and if you try to load something, Rails uses the cast method.
Yeah, it is a class. So it is the line 1. So yeah, it's a class, and it's active model type value. So yeah, in this case, this would be, for example, it's gonna be a display condition type, right? Or it is, or is it gonna be? Yeah, it's display condition type in this case, right?
Yeah.
I need to basically the case statement needs to be my different.
So like my thought is, we add an attribute. Let's see, do we add an attribute? Actually, you've already got the attribute. The attribute, what are you calling it now? It's what are you stowing the JSON?
Condition attributes.
Condition attributes. Okay.
Condition attributes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We want to do this in parallel. I don't want to have everything broken. So we want to do this in parallel, but the end result of this is that you'll no longer have, the end result of the refactoring I'm thinking of is that you'll no longer have your subclasses of display condition. You'll just have display condition. You will have some new classes. Maybe just for clarity, we'll call them, we'll probably nest them inside of display condition. Maybe we'll call them display condition rule. So like display condition : rule.
Okay.
And so like instead of the different types, you'll have like location rule and logged in rule and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they'll be pure Ruby. They won't be descendants of the display condition class. They won't be active record. They'll be pure Ruby objects. And then we'll create a type like he's got here that will instantiate the correct one based on that condition attributes column. And eventually they can just supplant the polymorphic association version. Because I think, do you have a type column now? You've got, let's see.
I do, yes. So
but you've also got the type inside the attributes, right?
Yeah, so the type is here because it's inheriting from the basically the display conditions table, right? So when,
Oh, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Oh, I see. Condition attributes is just that part. Okay, yeah, I was reading the display wrong. And then the rest is just inherited. Okay.
so yeah, so those are the yeah. So this is the display condition when it's basically new. So you have the type there.
Okay, yeah, and then you got empty condition attributes.
Yeah.
So what I'm envisioning here is that, so I want to do this incrementally, but what I'm envisioning is that eventually you'll no longer have a type column here. You'll no longer have a separate type column in the database.
Okay.
And you won't have subclasses of display condition. You'll
Yeah.
have, but the type will move into the condition attributes, and then you'll use one of these polymorphic attributes to instantiate a rule, which is just pure Ruby. And the rule, you'll get the correct rule type based on what's in the condition attributes. Does that make any sense?
I guess so. I'm a bit confused, but I think it's yeah. So we are moving.
Basically, I don't think we need the machinery of single table inheritance for this use case.
Yeah, I am okay. I am game. So we'll.
So let's see. Let's try fleshing this out. Let's add an attribute to display condition.
Okay. Yeah, on it. All right. So add an actual attribute like a new column, correct?
Do we want to add a column that, I mean, we could reuse the existing display conditions column, is my thought. We just need to add some information to it. We'd have to add a type field to it. Do we want to? Maybe we should just do this in parallel.
Okay.
I'm trying to think which is a better way. Yeah, I think we should reuse the display conditions field. So let's say attribute, like actually use the keyword attribute. Let me look up all the active record attribute. Attribute, cast type, options, array, range, attribute. Name, okay. Not need to be backed. The database column. Okay. We might want to actually add a column for this just to keep from messing with what's there already. So maybe, yeah, let's go ahead and add a column.
What are we adding?
Let's add a column, another BSON column called, let's just call it rule.
Rule. sounds good. Add. And what's that type of rule? Is it just a string or?
What's the type?
I think.
What are you using for the conditions column right now, or the condition attributes column?
It's a JSONB.
Yeah, so use that one.
Okay. Yeah. I always like to double check my migrations because I usually mess them up. So, and yeah, looks good. All right. All right, we are in business.
All right.
Yeah, so now when we, so yeah, display condition.new, we should have rule. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think we need to set like an initial value or something, or?
Well, here's the thing. The next thing we need to do is we need to we need to go back to the model.
Yeah.
And we need to tell it that it's going to use a special type. So in the model, yep, somewhere in there, we're going to say attribute.
Okay.
And we're going to say :rule. And comma. And now we're going to make something up. We're going to make up, let's call it, what do we call this? Let's call it rule type. Capital R. .new.
Yeah.
Yep. And then let's go ahead and say, comma default, colon, and rule type dot empty.
Okay.
All right. So that should be enough for it to complain a lot if we try to use it at the console.
All right.
It should get very angry at us.
All right. Let's try this. Okay. Yeah. So.
All right. Good. That's a test failure. So
yeah.
Let us make the rule type class.
Awesome. So where should it go?
I want to put this class inside the display condition class. It's only useful inside the display condition class, so I think it should just be nested. And my inclination would be, let's see, do we have to? Yeah, we have to do it at the top. Okay, so let's do it at the top. Just like, inside there.
Is it like this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Class rule type inherits from.
But I mean, in terms of nested, is that?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is, yeah, it's a first for me.
Okay.
Yeah, is it? I assume it's inheriting from.
Well, it's not inheriting from anything right now.
Okay, I mean, we need it to inherit from active model type value.
Yep.
Okay. Let me see. Is there? Okay, never mind. So active. Active model type. All right. All right. No. Okay.
All right. So now it should have a new thing to be mad at us about.
All right. Sounds good.
This is my approach to testing. As long as I have some kind of output that changes, I'm happy.
Yeah, it is good.
All right, undefined method empty for display condition. All right, let's do something for that, even if we just return nil for now. So let's do def empty. And we don't really have anything to put in there yet, so let's just do nil.
Like explicitly nil, like this?
Yeah, explicitly nil. I like explicit. And then put a to-do and a to-do comment in there that says like, fix me.
Yeah.
Or like to do a better default. Because eventually we'll want to default that with like the default type of rule or something.
100%. Okay. That's
all right. So we should be able to get slightly farther now. Still cranky about empty. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, for dot class. Oh, right. Okay, just make that self dot empty.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
That's good.
Now let's see. Try to do underscore dot rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
all right. So there's our default.
Yeah.
Now let's see. Let's say underscore dot rule equals.
Yeah.
And let's make it a hash. And let's imagine what this should look like. Let's say for a logged in rule. First off, there would be a type in there. So let's say type colon. And it doesn't have to be a class name anymore because we're not, although we could match it to the class names. Not a bad idea. Let's call it, in type, let's say, logged in rule or something?
Logged in rule. Okay. Oops. Rule. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah.
I think this.
And then what's the
I
data?
Think it won't work anymore because the underscore is now nil.
Oh, right. Yep. Sorry.
But no, it's okay. I'll do this display new. I'll just
assign that to a variable.
Favorite variable is x. We'll do x. So now we'll do x dot rule equals type logged in rule. Okay.
Yeah. And then what is the data that would be associated with a logged in rule?
It's true or false. So value is true or false, right? So if you're logged in, user is logged in true or false, basically.
Okay.
So is it value or something else? Value?
I wouldn't call it value. Value is a little bit vague. I mean, if I were doing it, I'd probably call it something like user underscore must underscore be underscore logged underscore in or something like that, because that's very intention revealing.
Sure.
And then make that true or false.
Underscore logged underscore n. Correct? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
And then is just Boolean true or false. That would do the trick.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I would call it something like user must be logged in, because otherwise this, like, it doesn't suggest to me what the rule is.
User must be logged in.
Or else, or is it like, okay, wait, what are the states for this? Is it user must be logged in or user must be logged out? Is that states?
Yeah, for this it's pretty simple. It's 0 or 1 or true or false. It's if the user is logged in, do this. If the user is not logged in, probably do nothing or do something else. And the way this condition is set up at the moment, at least, is yeah, you can display message if the user is logged in. So this is a condition. If the user is logged in, show this message. Or you can set it the other way around. If the user is not logged in, show the other message.
Okay. So, you know how I would do this? I'll tell you. If for me, I would probably not use Booleans for this.
Sure.
Because I'd want to use something that's even more intention revealing. So now that you explain it to me a little bit more, I think I would probably model it as I'd call the key only when, and I'd call the value, and then for the values, I'd use either logged in or logged out. So it would be only only when colon logged in as a string.
Only when, like this, right? Okay. Yep. And then the value is
like a string, yeah, logged underscore in or something like that.
Yeah. Logged in. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
now, okay, so hit enter and see if it complains. All right, so far so good. Now look at the x dot rule again.
Yeah, it looks good. So we have the rules already set up. We have the type of it. We have only when, which is basically yeah.
What happens when you type x dot rule?
X dot rule. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It must. Okay, so the default of that of active model type value must be a pass through. That's fine. So let's see. All right, so now we want to actually start implementing the type. And for this we want to basically crib from that Corey Haynes example.
All right, let's have a look at the example. Okay.
And I apologize that this is a screenshot and not a.
No worries, no worries. I mean, it's yeah, don't worry about it.
There's snippets of that code farther up that you can copy if you want. Otherwise, we can just type it out. But basically, we want cast and we want serialize.
All right, let's. All right, so cast. Okay, so. All right, so do we need to copy this method? I assume not as is, but it's going to be the same kind of same structure. Is it
same structure? Yeah.
Like
same
have
structure.
A short circuit at the top, and then we're gonna have a case statement. Okay. Okay. Let me copy this. All right. So, right.
I have it up on my screen, so I can kind of talk you through it too.
Okay.
So we want to def cast.
All right. So what I did is I opened another window and
Okay.
I copy. So I think this says this is gonna be different. We
Yep.
need this to
Yep. So let's see, return value if value is a
rule type or no
rule.
rule
Yeah.
rule. And in this case, this is gonna be rule as well. And my assumption is this stays
That's
at
all okay.
okay.
Yeah.
And then we have
So if we try if we reload and try to access and try to do what we just did again, I think we should have some problems because
okay.
What I want to see is I want it to complain about a missing class called rule. That's what I want right now.
Okay. If we do yeah. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So now let's define our rule. So this is going to be, let's go ahead and nest rule inside here as well. And it can be above or below the rule type.
Inside of the rule type?
No, let's put it next to the rule type, either above or below.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it above. Is it okay?
Yeah.
And
Class rule.
Is it gonna be inheriting from anything?
I don't think so. I don't think do we need, let's see.
And
what is he using here? Yeah, no, it doesn't need to inherit from anything. That should get us a little bit further.
But in this case, like, shouldn't we do like display condition : rule?
We don't need to because well, we might need to. Let's find out if we need to.
Okay, let's.
I think the scoping rules mean we don't need to, but let's find out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we got a different. Yeah, we got an error in cast line 9 and implicit conversion into a string. So
line 9.
It's here.
JSON.parse value. Okay, so that's probably from the JSON.parse. This is fine. All right, so let's change our. Let's see, that's because of the nil, I think. And JSON.parse needs at least a pair of curly braces, if I'm not mistaken.
What about if we change empty to this?
Yeah, give it a whirl.
All right. Okay, so we have something else. Add-on number of argument given 1 expected 0.
Perfect.
Initialize. Yeah, so 10. 10, 10, 10. Yeah. So rule. Oh, okay.
Rule.
Have
now
an
we need
method. Right?
Yeah, now we need an initializer for rule.
All right. And it needs to have some kind of value.
Yeah. Now I would actually, he has it taking a value hash as an object. I think my preference would be to actually double splat. Kostya, I'm occupied. Is it an emergency? My preference. So on line 12, let's convert line 12 to a double star value hash. So star value hash.
Okay. Star.
So that'll convert value hash into keyword arguments, and then let's give this thing keyword arguments. So back on line 3, now we can say it takes let's see. Actually, so this is just the base rule. In the end, like eventually we're going to get to want this. We're going to want to get to a point where we never actually have a base rule stored in this column. We always want it to be a child class of rule. For now, let's see. If we star an empty hash, it's going to be blank, so that's fine. We can actually leave the parameters empty now. And
you mean in here we don't really need to pass anything?
Yeah, actually,
okay.
We should be able to get a little bit further now.
Okay, so I'll delete those and I'll reload. And yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right, a little bit happier now. Now, what happens when you say x.rule?
X.rule.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now instead of getting that hash that we made our default, we get a rule out of it. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. So let's go back to the code and what I really want. We never want to actually use the base rule class. Because it doesn't make sense to have a blank, it only makes sense to have explicit rule types. It only makes sense to have to have it be a logged in rule or a location rule or a page rule. What rule type, do you have like a rule type that you would default to if there was a default?
If it's default, I would say it's like storefront page, and it will be show everywhere, or it's globally visible or globally displayed.
Okay.
If that's, yeah, I mean, that is the only thing I can think of. It's like if there's no rules, then show it everywhere.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's make that an actual thing.
Okay.
So let's instead of for self.empty, let's invent something new. Let's pretend something exists. Let's say global without the
parentheses.
Yeah, without the braces. Let's actually like pretend a class exists and say global rule.new.
Okay, so this is a class.
Yeah.
.new. And is there, are we passing anything, or?
I don't think we need anything for a global rule.
All right.
All right, so that's not going to work. We can assume that won't work. Let's go ahead and add the global rule class. We'll add that under the rule class, and we'll make it a child of the rule class.
Sounds good.
Not inside it.
Okay. Yeah.
But like underneath it, let's do class global rule descends from rule.
Yeah. And so rule. What did we do with this? Okay. So yeah.
So in line 7, just add a lesser than. And rule.
Yeah.
So there's our first specific rule type. And yeah, okay. Let's see if that's working. We should see global rule being our default now.
Yeah. Okay, so x dot true. Yeah, we have we have a global rule.
All right, cool. What happens when you try x.save right now?
Good question. I think it won't save because it needs
I think it needs serialize.
Needs a message as well. So okay, let's try. So x save false. Yeah, x yeah, so there's a couple of validations. I have condition attributes, they are empty, and storefront message is empty. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think condition attributes they don't matter anymore, so I can take those out. But
Can you just try doing a save with validate colon false?
sure.
Excellent. That is exactly the error that I was hoping for.
Okay. I'm happy we got it.
All right. So this gives us something to work on. So that says that we have to actually teach this thing how to serialize, how to cast and serialize a global rule. So now things start to get interesting. So back to the code.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be like an OB question, but I am not sure of like when we say cast, like what does it do? Like
So it's not a newbie question at all, because I don't think the a lot of people aren't aware that we have these polymorphic attributes now. It was really something that polymorphic attributes, I think, mainly came along with the support for JSON-B in Active Record. And so basically, I mean, the idea here is you have a column that you have a JSON-B column that you're throwing arbitrary attributes into.
yeah.
But you don't want to work with it. But that data might represent one of several different types. In our case, it might represent one of several different types of rule. And we don't want to work with it as just a blob of JSON data. We want to work with it as objects, as objects that represent rules.
Okay.
So what the type does, the type, we added that type on line 31. We said that the type of this attribute is rule type. And we're basically saying, hey, Active Record, when you're working with the rule column, I want you to do everything through this instance of rule type. I want you to save it through rule type. I want you to load it through rule type. Every time I work with that column, I don't want to touch it directly. I don't want to touch the data directly. I want you to interpret whatever is in there using this rule type object, and I want you to convert. I want you to convert whatever I give you for that attribute. I want you to convert it back to JSON using this rule type object. So the cast, and implicitly, Active Record is going to use the cast method from whatever you give it there. It's going to use the cast method to get an object, to get the correct type of object from whatever data is in that field. So, or is in that attribute. So if you've assigned if that attribute just has some JSON in it back from the database, it's going to pass it through cast and use whatever comes out the other end. If that attribute, if it's a new object and you've just put a hash of attributes, you've assigned a hash of attributes like we did earlier, Rails isn't going to give you that hash of attributes back. It's going to pass it through cast and give you whatever object comes out the other end.
Okay.
And if there's an object on that field, it's still going to pass it through cast and give you whatever comes out the other end. And that's why we have the short circuit at the top, because we want to say, oh, if this has already been cast, if this is already a rule object,
okay, then just return it. Okay.
Yeah, just return it. But yeah, it's basically, think of it as every time Rail Active Record gives us that attribute, it's going to pass it through. It's going to pass whatever is in there through cast and give us what comes out the other end.
Okay, and okay, so all this, not all, but some of this logic is dependent on the active model type value, right? Because there's some hidden logic or stuff happening under the hood that
I think, yeah, I'm not actually sure how much active model type value even adds. I haven't looked at the code for that. Like it's pretty clear, you know, the fact that this gave us the original value back earlier suggests to me that active model type value includes a default implementation of cast, which is just a pass through.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm getting from that, because otherwise they would have said, hey, there's no cast method. So I think we're probably getting like a pass-through cast method and maybe like a pass-through serialized method.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it really adds much else, because really like what you see is what you get here. It's gonna pass whatever value is in that field. It's gonna pass it through cast, and we control cast.
Yeah, but yes, but I think cast is being invoked by.
Oh yeah, well cast, it's not the active model type value, I think. So line 31, I think it's being invoked by the attribute handling of active model.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because for me it was, there is something missing. I needed to connect the dots, and now it makes sense.
So yeah, line 31 is really where the dots are connected, because we passed rule type.new as the type of that attribute. It's basically that you could think of that attribute, that argument to attribute as like telling Rails to override its default handling of a column and saying, nope, use this thing to handle that column instead.
Yeah.
So here is where, like right now, we're just instantiating a rule. But what we want to have here is we want to have a case statement that, you know, okay, so first, so we've got the thing that just returns the rule if it is a rule. And then after the value hash, we want to have a case statement, and we want a case on the type of
the value, or
the type that's in the value hash. So like in between lines 14 and 15. Actually, let's get rid of line 17.
Sure.
So we say case value hash
value
underscore hash. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's this one. And
I want to use fetch here, because if there isn't a type field, it's an error. Like
so
there should.
Fetch, and is it type or?
Yeah, maybe not fetch. You know what? Just use subscript. I'm sorry. Use subscript, not fetch. So use the square brackets.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, just hash square brackets. Get rid of the dot.
Oh, okay.
And we called it earlier, we called this type. Yep, let's just use type. Let's see, if we do JSON parse, are we gonna get, yeah, maybe we'll get a, all right. Type. So when it's, well, okay, let's say when it's global rule, global underscore rule.
Okay.
Then we want to do global rule.new.
Yeah. Instead of typing, I'm gonna do this. All right.
All right. And then let's, before we forget, let's add an else here at the end. We'll say else raise unknown rule type raise.
Unknown.
Like, so like, sorry. So not Rails, raise.
Oh, sorry. Raise.
Yeah.
Raise.
Yeah, as in raise an exception.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, and then we want to just we want to put a string message here. That's something like unknown rule type.
Unknown rule type.
Yep, and then colon, or yeah, and then we want to interpolate in whatever the. So inside that string, do a string interpolation, and let's interpolate in value hash subscript type.
Value hash. The type.
Subscript type, like you have on line 16.
Oh yeah. I got it. Yeah.
And I would throw an inspect after the close, a dot inspect after the close, the closing square brace.
Like here, dot inspect.
No, back one, back inside the interpolation.
Right. Okay. Dot inspect.
That way, if it's an empty string, it'll show up with quotes around it instead of just being blank.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of safety. Yeah, let's go ahead and add another rule type while we're in here. We were going to do logged in and logged out. So let's add another when.
Yeah. Logged in rule and so is it sorry. Is it something like this or?
Yep, and then this time we know we want to actually pass something. We want to pass the value hash to it.
All right, so
on line 23, we can leave some of this stuff to break later.
Okay, so line 23, okay. So
yeah, line 23, we want to pass in ** value hash.
** value hash. Okay.
All right, that gives us enough to test.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this. All right. So let's do and x.rule.
All right.
Okay. So
now let's do x.rule equals. And let's make another. Let's use a hash, but let's make it a logged in rule. So let's say type hash, where type is logged in rule.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's say only when logged in. All right, enter. And then let's try getting the rule again, x.rule.
Yeah. So I'm
Perfect.
type
Perfect.
only one. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's go to line 3. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense because global rule inherits from rule and it doesn't have an initialize of its own. So actually not line 3. Let's go in the, or not, let's go to the logged in rule.
Yeah.
And add an initialize.
So yeah, let's say let's move this.
Yeah.
And all right, what are we? Is it like a hash?
So we're star splatting though. We're keyword splatting those, and so we can actually use explicit keywords here. So we'll say type.
Right. Okay, and only when?
And only when. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then
we can ignore type, but we can say, oh well, it has to, yeah. Or we could say, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, say like only when, at only when equals only when.
Yeah, and yeah,
yeah, that's
okay.
enough to try.
All right. Let's do this, then set this, and try this. Yeah, it is working.
Fantastic. Before we forget, I want to make sure to get this part in while I'm still on with you.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we get the serialize in. So let's add, and you can crib that from the Corey Haynes stuff. It's just, it's a one-liner. It's def serialize.
Okay.
This is in the, sorry, it's in the rule type.
Rule type.
So right. after the cast method, we want see on line 18.
Line 18, right?
Yeah, value.toHash.2JSON.
All right. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. Cast, where's cast? Yeah. Yeah, so let's do this. So,
Oh, yeah. And we give it value. And we say value.toHash.2JSON.
Oops. Is this equal to this or like this is different.
So 2H was added relatively recently to Ruby.
Okay.
So that may be part of it.
Yeah.
Also, it might be 2Hash. I think he might be doing that because because in his version he's having these classes explicitly implement their 2Hash. Like sure. he wants to require them. He wants to require the programmer to actually add a 2Hash method rather than having it rely on any kind of implicit Rails stuff or Ruby stuff.
Yeah, sure. It's just, yeah, I always, like, since I learned.
Give me 1 second, please. Sorry.
Sure.
What's that? Okay. Baby, I'm going to be off this call in about 15 minutes, and I'll be able to help you then. Just like 15 minutes. I can't do it right now. I have to yeah, like 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll be able to help you. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so I think yeah, the main thing is we actually want to explicitly implement the 2# on any of our explicit rules.
Yeah, yeah.
So like logged in rule, the 2# will be type hard coded to logged in, and then only when goes to only when. Does that make sense? So like on line, so like you would add around line 11.
Okay.
We would add a new method. We'd add a new method under the initialize.
Under, okay.
And we'd say def 2#.
Oh. Okay.
And we would have this, and we would have that produce a hash, so curly braces. And the type, we'd hard code the type to logged in, so type colon.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Type colon logged in. And only when.
It's gonna be, I think, only when, right?
Mm-hmm. At only when. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So that says, with that in place, we may actually be able to save. If we try and save a logged in rule, we might be able to actually do it if we don't validate.
Okay. So let's try this. Then should be here somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what's going on. No, not null.
Oh, but that's a not null violation for storefront message ID. So, yeah, actually, look at the output. Look at the create statement. Look at the insert into statement, and you can see rule followed by some JSON.
Correct. Yes. So this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this looks good.
So it's serialized.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, but why are we? Okay, so we converted this to a hash, but I'm a bit confused. Why are we converting this hash to JSON?
So you mean on
like
line 38?
For example, right? Because like within Rails or in Ruby, for us, working with hashes is equivalent to, for example, I don't know, JavaScript objects or whatever. And then in this case, I'm not sure why we are saving this into the database as a JSON. Not
well, because it's a JSON-B column.
Correct. Yes.
So so the serialize part of the type, the cast part of the type is how do we take whatever's in that field and convert it to a Ruby, a semantic Ruby object. The serialize is the other side of things, and serialize, it says, how do we take whatever's in that field? How do we take a semantic Ruby object in that field and convert it back to JSON for saving in a JSON-B column? That's basically serialize is what Rails is going to use to get the JSON string that needs to be stored in that column.
Okay. Yeah, I think then in this case I'm working with JSON-B. Yeah, because I always save just hashes into my JSON-B columns.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I'm following Corey's example here, and he's using that. It might be possible to just put the hash there and have Rails automatically convert that to JSON. But I think the reason for this, that it may be expecting a JSON string to come out of that. And I think the reason may be that when you provide a type object, you're kind of telling Rails, okay, ignore all of your defaults.
Okay.
Don't use your defaults. Just
Okay.
use this thing to do the conversions that you would usually do.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I think that's what's going on, is that we're overriding Rails defaults and we're providing our own machinery for it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It might be. It might. I would totally recommend like playing with that. It might be possible to get rid of some of that. Maybe you could get rid of the to.json. Totally
Yeah.
play with it and tell me what you find out.
Okay. Yeah.
So this, I think, is at least a skeleton of what I had in mind. You don't have to keep all these classes inside display condition. You could move them out. If you move them out, I would probably create a display condition directory, and then I would move these classes out into the subdirectory, into files of their own. But I like to start out with them,
Yeah.
nested, just because it's just easier to work with when you're starting out.
100%.
But like, this is the basic pattern. So like, for each rule type, add a new subclass of rule, and you can put your actual rule logic in them. So you can add a satisfies, like a satisfies question mark method to each of these rules. Like right now, they're just data, but you can add a satisfies question mark to each one, and your code for actually using the rule inside the condition will be rule.satisfies question mark, and then pass in whatever you get from the front end.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I think this is yeah, it is simpler than what I had, and I think I can build on top of that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and so like, eventually you should be able to get away from. You won't need any of the display condition subclasses. That's my goal here, is that all of your display condition subclasses go away. You just use the rules, and that's your only polymorphism, is in that one column. You don't have to have polymorphic active record objects.
Yeah, that's good. All right, awesome. Thanks so much, man. I know you gotta run, so I'll let you go.
Any other questions? We got about 5 minutes. So any other questions? Does this make sense?
It makes sense, yes. So what I need to do basically is, if for other conditions, I'm gonna add more when statements,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna have the classes here. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's better at some point to move those out into another directory, so it's a bit cleaner. But for now, it's
Yeah, and then just make sure you put your satisfaction logic inside those, and that'll keep it nice and neatly. The classes know about what attributes they need to check, and nothing outside them needs to know.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think it's clear enough. Once I kind of start adding the different conditions, if there's anything, I'll make sure to reach out.
Cool. Oh, one thing I should note.
Sure.
One piece of complexity that you'll hit is you're going to need, you're going to have to map these to fields on the screen at some point. I assume like the rule attributes to fields on the screen.
Correct. Each condition or rule has different attributes than the other ones. Yes.
Right. And I don't know, like, I know you're doing that on the front end right now, I think. I guess the important part is, you may find it useful at some point to include active model into the rule class.
Okay.
Because that will make it easier to use it in Rails forms.
Yes.
And that's a topic for another day. But basically, active model augments classes with some various helpers and things that Rails expects when it's making a form.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just something to be aware of, is that if you're using these in a form, you'll probably want to mix in some active model goodness.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Okay, man. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I'll once
Cool.
if I had any complexity and I need further help, I'll make sure to reach out.
All right, cool.
Yeah, thanks so much, man, and have a good day.
You too. That
Yeah.
was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks as well. Bye.
Bye.